Iga Swiatek stands across the net. World number 2. She is supposed to destroy a 20-year-old from the Philippines ranked 30. This should be a coronation. But then something happens that catches everyone off guard. Swiatek just stops. She is not reacting to a tennis shot. She is reacting to words, to Spanish, to something she never expected to hear on a tennis court. And right then, in that split second, her whole face changes. Confusion, shock, offense. And Swiatek realizes the truth in a way that no ranking or seeding could have prepared her for. She is not just playing tennis today. She is getting played. This is Alex Eala. You have watched her dominate this past year if you have been paying any attention to women's tennis. You know the highlights. Swiatek went down. Keys went down. Goff went down. Ostapenko got demolished. A kid came from nowhere and beat everyone. She went from complete anonymity to the biggest draw in women's tennis in less than 12 months. It is wild. It is incredible. But here is what you might not know. Eala has been hiding something this entire time. Not a flaw, a weapon. And when she walked into Madrid, when she finally felt comfortable enough to use it, everything changed. The question is not whether she can beat top players anymore. The question is, what happens when she stops being who she thought she needed to be and starts being who she actually is? 7 years. That is how long Eala lived in Spain. 7 straight years at Nadal's Academy in Mallorca. She did not just train there. She lived there. She breathed Spanish. She thought in Spanish. She trained alongside players who spoke Spanish every single day. By the time she was 20 years old, Spanish was not a second language to her. It was native. It was wired into her bones. But when she stepped onto the WTA tour, something shifted. She made a conscious decision. She became the humble one, the grateful one, the quiet one. She would thank her opponent after beating them. She would give interviews in perfect English, even though Spanish was just as natural. She played tennis like she was grateful just to be invited to the party. She played like this girl from the Philippines was so honored to be competing against the best in the world that she could barely believe it was happening. And the world fell in love with her because she seemed genuinely good, because she seemed kind, because she seemed like someone who actually cared about tennis as an art instead of a way to win. But she was also playing a role, a version of herself. A curated version designed to fit what the world wanted, from a young woman breaking into professional tennis from a country that had never produced a tennis superstar before. She was real. She was kind. But she was also hiding. Then Madrid happened. Madrid is Spanish soil. Madrid is where Eala could walk onto a court and hear her language everywhere, where she could be home, where she did not have to translate herself into English, where the world around her spoke the language that was buried inside her. And Madrid is also where Swiatek showed up as the second-ranked player in the world, a player who had been absolutely dominant, a player who had not lost to anyone ranked outside the top 20 in what felt like forever. Swiatek is fierce. She is confident. She walks onto a court like she already knows how the match will end. She plays like her opponent does not matter, like the match is decided before the first serve. That confidence lasted about 45 minutes. Here is what people do not understand about elite sports. At that level, when the talent is almost equal, it is not the better forehand that wins. It is not the better serve. It is the player who makes their opponent feel small, who makes them question whether they actually belong on the same court. Swiatek is brilliant at this. She knows how to make you feel like you are fighting from behind even when you are not. But Swiatek had never played someone like Eala before. Not in Madrid. Not like this. In the first set, Eala played exactly the way everyone expected. Textbook tennis. Solid ground strokes. Good positioning. But quiet. Professional. Respectful. She played like a 30-ranked player against the number 2 player in the world. She played like she belonged on the court but did not own it. Like she was grateful to be there. Then something clicked. Midway through the second set, Eala hits a forehand winner down the line. Clean. Perfect. The kind of shot that leaves no room for argument. Swiatek is walking back to the baseline. And Eala looks at her and says one word, vamos. Just that, in Spanish. Not aggressive, not mean, confident. Like she was saying something simple and true at the same exact time. I am here. I belong here. And I am about to make you respect that. Swiatek's face changed immediately. Most tennis players stay silent. That is the rule. That is what you are supposed to do. Trash talk does not really exist in women's tennis the way it does in the men's game. When it happens, people notice. But when it happens in a language your opponent does not speak fluently, when it happens on a court where that language is native to the other player, it does something different. It creates a gap. Suddenly you are playing someone who has access to communication you do not fully understand. Suddenly you are on the outside looking in. You do not know what is being said. You do not know what is being thought. And that uncertainty gets inside your head. Did Swiatek know Eala spoke Spanish before that moment? Probably. But knowing something intellectually is completely different from hearing it directed at you across a tennis court when you are trying to focus on winning. After that first vamos, Eala kept going. Every time she won a big point, she celebrated a little louder. Every time Swiatek hit something aggressive, Eala responded with something sharper. Not sharper in her shots, sharper in her presence, in how she carried herself. She was matching Swiatek's intensity, but from a completely different angle. Swiatek was playing with pure force. Eala was playing with intelligence, with cultural confidence, with the kind of certainty that comes from being home, from being comfortable, from knowing that every single person in that stadium understood her language. By the middle of the second set, you could see Swiatek's entire body language shift. She started hitting harder, trying to end points faster, trying to close out the match before something else happened, trying to regain control. But this is the thing about tennis at the elite level. When you start trying too hard to regain control, you actually lose it. Your shots become aggressive instead of precise. Your decision-making speeds up when it should slow down. Your shots start finding the net. Swiatek's unforced errors exploded. First set, she had 8. Second set, after the vamos moment, after Eala started matching her intensity, after Swiatek realized she was not just playing tennis but playing a mind game she was not prepared for, that number doubled. 16 unforced errors. She was broken more. She was making mistakes that do not happen to world number 2 players unless something has broken in their head, unless they have lost confidence, unless they are playing not to lose instead of playing to win. But here is what makes this so complicated. Eala was not being mean. She was not being disrespectful. She was speaking her native language on a Spanish court in front of Spanish fans. She was celebrating her own good shots. She was responding to aggression with confidence. By every measure, by every objective standard, she was doing exactly what elite athletes are supposed to do. Play with fire. Play like you believe in yourself. Play like you own the court. So why did it feel like Swiatek was losing something more than just a tennis match? Why did it feel like the entire dynamic had flipped in ways that had nothing to do with serve speeds or forehand angles? The answer is something nobody talks about when they break down women's tennis. Most players who reach the top, they do it through some combination of talent and work and luck. But they do it playing the game the way everyone else plays it. They do it in English-speaking countries mostly. They do it without their native language giving them an advantage. They do it the conventional way. Eala just showed that there might be another way entirely, a way that uses who you actually are as a weapon instead of something to hide. Now here is where it gets interesting, because Eala's trash talk was not just about personality. It was not just about finally letting loose. It was about psychology. And once you understand the psychology, everything about that match changes. Swiatek is Polish. She speaks Polish and English. She does not speak Spanish fluently. When Eala is speaking Spanish, Swiatek cannot process it the way a native can. That is not cheating. That is strategy. That is using every single advantage you have on a tennis court. And what Eala figured out is this. When you speak to your opponent in a language they do not fully understand, it does something psychological. It signals confidence in your territory. It says, I am comfortable here and you are not. It creates an advantage that has nothing to do with tennis and everything to do with who feels like they own the court. Swiatek came to Madrid expecting to control everything. She was higher ranked. She had been dominating. She was supposed to make Eala feel small. But Eala flipped that entire power dynamic by doing something so simple it almost went unnoticed. She spoke her native language. She celebrated in her native language. She made it clear without saying it directly. On this court, in this moment, I have the advantage. Not because I am ranked higher, because I belong here and you do not. Look at how other top players create psychological dominance. Serena Williams did it through intimidation, through pure aggression, through making you feel physically overwhelmed. Swiatek does it through dismissiveness. She plays like her opponent does not matter, like the match is already decided. Eala just showed that there is another way. You can create psychological dominance through intelligence, through cultural confidence, through using who you actually are as a weapon instead of trying to be what everyone expects you to be. That is unprecedented in women's tennis, because here is what Swiatek could not do. She could not rattle Eala back. She could not use her usual playbook. She could not make Eala feel small because Eala was not trying to be small anymore. She was not playing the version of herself that the world fell in love with. She was playing the version that trained at Nadal's Academy for 7 years. The version that speaks Spanish like she was born speaking it. The version that knows how to compete at the highest level without apologizing for it. So Swiatek did the only thing she knew how to do. She tried to hit through it. She tried to play more aggressively. She tried to intimidate her way out of a situation where intimidation was not working. And the more she tried, the worse it got. You cannot beat someone who has figured out how to control the psychological space of a match through language and cultural identity. You can only lose to them. And that is exactly what happened. But here is the thing that matters. Eala did not just beat Swiatek. She proved something massive about herself. She proved that she has been choosing to be quiet this entire time. She has been choosing to be the humble one, the grateful one. That was not something forced on her. That was a choice. And if she chose it, then she can choose something else. Which means everything we thought we knew about Alex Eala might be completely wrong. Let me show you the numbers because numbers do not lie. In the first set before Eala started speaking Spanish regularly, before she started matching Swiatek's intensity with her own personality, her serve hold percentage was 60%. Good for a player ranked outside the top 30. Then the Vamos moment happened. Then she unleashed something that had been locked away. Her serve hold percentage jumped to 83%. That is a 23-point increase in one set. That is not improvement. That is transformation. Swiatek's unforced errors went from 8 in the first set to 16 in the second set. 100% increase. Think about that. A world number 2 player is literally making twice as many mistakes in the second half of a match against someone ranked 30. That does not happen by accident. That happens because something broke. Psychologically, emotionally, mentally. But look at the bigger picture. In Stuttgart a few weeks earlier, Eala played Leylah Fernandez. She stayed quiet the entire match. Professional, humble, grateful to be there. She lost 6-1, 6-4 in an hour and 28 minutes. She got destroyed. She looked like she was not even fully present in her own match, like her mind was somewhere else, like she was playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Then came Indian Wells. Different tournament, different opponent, Coco Gauff. But something was different about how Eala showed up. The crowd was massive. Filipinos everywhere, 10,000 of them, maybe more. She could feel the energy. She could feel her country behind her. She could hear them chanting. And something inside her unlocked. She beat Gauff, a top 10 player, a player ranked way, way higher than her. She did it with confidence and energy and presence. She was not quiet in that match. She was alive. See the pattern. Eala plays better when she is emotionally unleashed. She plays worse when she is restrained. She plays her absolute best tennis when she stops apologizing for who she is and starts owning who she is. Listen to what the people who actually know her are saying. After Madrid, a tennis analyst said Eala showed a new dimension today. Not new shots, not a new serve, a new dimension, a completely different way of approaching the sport. Her coaches at the Rafa Nadal Academy have been saying something similar for years. Rafa Nadal himself has always emphasized one thing with his players: play with fire, play with intensity, do not hold back, do not apologize, own the court. For years, Eala has been learning from the greatest clay court player of all time. She has been absorbing his philosophy every single day, but she was not applying it in matches. She was playing small. She was playing grateful. She was playing like she did not deserve to be there, even though she absolutely did. Madrid is the moment everything clicked. Madrid is when she stopped listening to what she thought the world wanted from her and started listening to what Nadal had been trying to teach her all along. Play with fire. Own your space. Use every advantage you have, including the fact that you speak fluent Spanish on a Spanish court. If Eala continues to tap into this psychological dimension, if she keeps using her unique cultural identity as an asset instead of something to downplay, she is going to be a completely different player. Most of the top players in women's tennis right now are intimidators through force, through ranking, through pure dominance. Swiatek is an intimidator through dismissiveness. Sabalenka is an intimidator through power. Eala is emerging as an intimidator through intelligence and cultural confidence. Nobody else in women's tennis is doing this right now, and that changes everything about how she should be evaluated going forward. The question is no longer whether she can beat top players. She already proved that. The question is whether she can maintain this psychological edge consistently, whether she can bring this version of herself to every tournament, not just the ones where she is on home soil, whether she can use her intelligence and her language and her identity as a permanent advantage instead of a one-time moment. That is the real test coming. So here is the real question. Was Madrid a one-time thing? A flash of personality we happened to catch on camera? A moment where Eala felt comfortable on Spanish soil and decided to unleash herself for a few hours before going back to being the humble one? Or is this the beginning of something bigger? Is this the start of Alex Eala finally stepping into her actual power? If it is just a one-time thing, then Madrid was interesting. It was a fun story. It was a cool moment. But it does not change anything about women's tennis or about how we should evaluate Eala going forward. But if this is the beginning, if Eala figured out how to access this version of herself consistently, if she can bring this psychological edge to Wimbledon and the US Open and clay courts and hard courts and every tournament she plays in, then everything changes. Think about what that means. A player who can be humble off court and fierce on court. A player who can use language and cultural identity as a psychological weapon. A player who understands that intimidation does not just come from ranking or power or aggression, but from confidence and intelligence and knowing exactly who you are. That player does not just win tournaments. That player changes what it means to be a champion in women's tennis. The thing about Eala is she has already proven she can beat anyone. She beat Swiatek and Goff and Keys and Ostapenko. She has already proven she belongs at the highest level. What she has not proven yet is whether she can be this version of herself consistently, whether she can maintain this psychological edge when she is not at home, whether she can bring this fire to Wimbledon when she is seeded 29 and expected to make a deep run. Wimbledon is coming. It is the next test. It is where we will find out if Madrid was a moment or if it was a beginning. Because here is what I think is actually happening. I think Rafa Nadal has been trying to unlock this version of Eala for years. I think he has been telling her to play with fire and she has been listening but not fully believing. I think Madrid was the moment when everything clicked. When she realized that being humble and being strong are not opposites. That she can be grateful and fierce at the same time. That her native language and her cultural identity and the fact that she is the first Filipina to do this are not weaknesses. They are advantages. And if that is true, if Eala actually figures this out and masters this psychological dimension of her game, then the trajectory changes completely. She is not just a rising star anymore. She is a threat to every single top player in women's tennis, because they have never played someone like her before. Someone who plays with intelligence instead of just power. Someone who uses psychology instead of just ranking. Someone who is not trying to be something she is not. So the question I want you to think about is this. Will Wimbledon be the moment she breaks through? Will it be the moment she brings this version of herself to a grand slam and shows the entire world what she is capable of? Or will she go back to being quiet, back to being humble, back to playing the version of herself that everyone expects? I'm going to be tracking every single one of her matches from here forward. I'm going to be analyzing whether she brings this Madrid energy to Wimbledon and the US Open and clay and hard court, because I think we are about to watch something unprecedented happen in women's tennis, and I do not want to miss it. So if you want to see what happens next with Alex Eala, if you want to understand whether this is the moment she becomes unstoppable, then subscribe and turn on notifications. Because when she plays next, I am going to break down exactly what it means for her path to #1. And that is a story I think you are going to want to see.